Welcome to Developing the Leader Within podcast, the podcast that brings you leadership insights from the brightest minds shaping our world. Join us as we dive into conversation with trailblazers, innovators, and change makers, spanning every corner of the globe. Get ready to explore new perspectives, gain actionable insights, and become the leader the world needs today. Unleash your potential. Tune into Developing the Leader Within podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Let's embark on this transformative journey together. Developing the Leader Within podcast, leading beyond limits.
Welcome back, everyone. If you haven't subscribed, please do so right now, as it'll help us getting our show to others and help us get to our next milestone. Make sure to catch us streaming on Parade Deck, on Roku and Amazon Fire TV, on the Purpose Place Network, and catch our exclusive members-only content Going Deeper Within on the Lions Guide Academy. Today, we are speaking with Linda Ugelow. Linda is a speaking confidence coach, podcast host, and author of The Light in the Limelight. She holds a master's degree in expressive therapy and movement studies and has performed as a singer, musician, and principal dancer for over 3 decades. And now she helps people turn their dread of speaking into comfort and confidence. Linda, welcome to the show.
So great to be here, Enrique. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being with me. All the way from Budapest, folks. I tell you, we have a truly international show here, and we're delighted to have you. And folks, we'll be speaking about the secret weapon of every great leader, speaking with confidence. And Linda, as a leader for so many years, I know that this is a fact. A leader that does not have confidence when they're speaking, they lose influence and then lose power. But before we get into all of that conversation, tell us a little bit about you.
I am a speaking confidence coach. I also work with people vocally to feel more grounded and empowered in using their actual voice, because you know what? Our voice is our speaking instrument. And a lot of times we carry, habitual ways of using our voice from when we learned to speak as a kid. And once we learn how to speak, we usually just absorb the way the people speak around us, or we learn to speak in ways in reaction to what we've been told about us. So I help people feel empowered with their voice. I help people get to the root cause of any speaking anxiety they have so they can show up in the way that they want to be in the world.
Absolutely powerful way to navigate these things of challenges. And so why do you think that public speaking is one of the top fears among leaders, and how does it impact their effectiveness?
Well, what's interesting about leaders is that they are accomplished. They are experts in their field, they're trusted decision makers, clear thinkers, and yet they may quietly feel plagued with speaking anxiety. And that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them. It's not a flaw. It's not something to be ashamed of. It just means that they've lived a life like everyone else, and certain experiences in our lives have shaped how safe we feel when we are seen and heard. So we may have unconscious fears about judgment, about being wrong, about losing respect. And these fears can be traced back to earlier experiences, like being laughed at in school, or silenced, or criticized, or ignored. And so when it comes time to speak, it can feel really vulnerable because what we are carrying are these beliefs and these experiences from the past that likely never had a chance to be resolved fully. So what's happening is that we're not responding to what's going on in the room. We're responding to an old internalized pattern. So our nervous system kicks in and says, be careful, play it safe, don't take up too much space, or maybe people aren't interested in what you have to say. And that affects our voice as well. It affects our breathing. We may hyperventilate. The voice can tighten or sometimes even shake. or the delivery feels like flat, careful, robotic. And even with really good content, even with a really good message, you can feel like your presence, like you're not even present. You're kind of like hovering above your body somewhere. You feel disconnected or over rehearsed and not natural or guarded.
And in line with beliefs and habits, because I know a lot of leaders have some misconceptions about what speaking confidently is. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions leaders have about speaking confidently in front of others?
So, practice does help with our content and flow. Of course, we want to be prepared in what we want to say. But people don't realize that it's not just about knowing what you want to say, it's how you feel when you say it. And that's what we get wrong. We think that, oh, if I just practice over and over and over, that will lead to confidence. But no, all that does is help you with what you're going to be prepared to say. And even then, you can get up there and all of a sudden you can't remember because you're getting some kind of trigger from the past. And that's why it's a misconception. So we don't want to just prepare what we want to say, we want to prepare how we want to feel. Another misconception is there's a right way. Now, this comes from our educational system because in school we learn there's one right way and it's the teacher's way, and everything we do is graded according to that standard. People think that in order to be a good speaker, they have to be perfect, they have to get everything right. And there is so much wrong about getting everything right. Why? Because we don't respond the best way to perfection. We respond to relatability. So we want our leaders to lead by example, to share their vulnerability, to share their stories, to help us see how they get us, they understand what we're going through so that we can trust them. Someone who's so perfect, we feel can't possibly be like them.
That is so true. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, yes, it's not perfection, right? And we talk about leadership a lot, obviously, in this channel. We don't want you to be perfect, but we definitely want you to be relatable because that's where people flock to you. If they can relate, they can trust, and then you can guide them. A wonderful point there. Now, can you share a story of a leader who overcame a fear of public speaking and how it transformed their leadership?
I'm going to change the name of the person in this story because a lot of leaders that come to me want to remain anonymous. Because, you know, when you're in a position of authority, you don't always want other people to realize that this is something that you struggle with. Fair enough. So I'm going to talk about Janice, who worked in a male dominated field at the top of her league. And she was hosting a 3-day event with all the leaders in the industry, all the top notch. She was two women out of 70 men. So at first, she felt like what she needed to do was get some tips about her vocalization because she felt like she didn't sound like the authority that she should be. She wanted to have gravitas. She wanted to have a voice that she felt like men would listen to and trust. And she felt her voice was kind of tight and gravelly. But what she quickly realized is that there was a deeper pattern. There was self-belief issues, limitations. So we realized and we uncovered that there were things that happened in high school that affected how comfortable she felt speaking to a group. And this happens to a lot of people. They're comfortable speaking one-on-one or in a small group, but you get more than 3 or 4 people, and then all of a sudden you feel like, oh my God, all eyes are on you. And perhaps you, like Janice, had an experience in high school where you got to the front of the room, maybe didn't have the right answer, maybe got laughed at, or maybe the teacher said something mean to you, And all of a sudden, you feel like, oh God, I'm going to mess up. Something's going to happen. I'm going to lose my reputation. So we needed to do some clearing around that. So once we addressed that, we addressed the emotional imprint, then we could work with her vocal presence. But until we did that, it was like she couldn't get over the hump. I experienced this too. I was told that I needed to project more, I needed to speak with more volume, and I couldn't do that in spite of the fact that I had 40 years of voice lessons. I couldn't do it until I realized I wasn't allowing myself to speak with bigger volume because in my family, big volume meant angry and scary. And I made a decision long ago, unconsciously, that I was never going to speak like that. So Janice also had these kinds of self limitations, self beliefs that she did not feel comfortable looking up. She felt like people wouldn't be interested in what she had to say. Now, if you are a leader in front of all the industry leaders, you need to feel like you belong up there. So, number one is uncovering and resolving those things that are limiting you, those experiences that need to get resolved. Number two is that you need to develop a new way of speaking because, just like I said at the very, very beginning, our vocal habits are developed and conditioned from long ago. So if you've never spoken with a commanding voice, you've got to learn how to do that. So
Yes.
that's what we worked on next. We worked on helping her find and loving, not just finding, but loving the sound of her voice, loving the resonance, enjoying her delicious diction. Because when you really pay attention to how you're delivering your words and you elevate the meaning of the words by the way you say them, you're making it easy for people to hear you, understand you, and follow you. After this 3-day event, people came up to her. They said, I can't believe this is you. I've never heard you speak this way before. And the leaders of the industry came up and they said, we want what you're doing in our program for training all the people who are coming through our industry. So she was able to convince everybody that the organization that she was leading at the time, she hadn't created it, but she was the leader, was essential training for everyone in the industry.
That is so powerful and great example. Thank you for sharing that story. And I tell you, leaders that are listening right now, you just don't understand how powerful the inner work when it relates to speaking is. You have to dig deep, right? And you have to learn how to identify what it is that may be a stumbling block. And it may go back to your childhood. It may go back to high school, like your example. And it could go as recent as your last job, but you have to identify. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, for those listeners that are saying, oh, wow, I thought I needed to be perfect. I thought I had these habits. Oh, I got these deep wounds. What are daily or weekly habits that leaders can develop to build their speaking confidence?
Let's just pick it up the thread of, these deep wounds. Keep a journal. If you feel uncomfortable somewhere, ask, what am I worried about? When so and so or this board member or this colleague comes into the room and I get nervous, what am I afraid is going to happen? Are you afraid of getting judged? Are you afraid of being attacked? Actually, that was what I was afraid of because that's what happened. So ask yourself, what is it you're afraid of? And then think back, could that have originated? Maybe it was a narcissistic parent. Maybe it was a bully at school. Sometimes, I've even had clients who had wonderful home life, an enviable school life, but they were valedictorians. And you think that's a really good thing, but it has a downside. The downside is you think that people value you for always smart, always having the answer, and always being perfect. And if you self evaluate as having stumbled over your words or having messed up in some way, and you would grade yourself as like a 96, that's failure. And that keeps you from being fully present. So most of us have more what we think of wounds or injuries. Sometimes it's stuff that gets in the way. So, yes, definitely journal. Number two, mentally rehearse how you want to feel. So, if you need to go into a meeting, take a moment to think, how do I want to feel and show up when I'm there? And just kind of vaguely imagine, feeling good, feeling relaxed, feeling fun, or, joking around or bantering, whatever energy you want to bring in. Imagine yourself expressing yourself just the way you want to. This seems very simple. It's so powerful that all the Olympic athletes use it. Number three, warm up your voice. You don't have you don't have to just leave it to singers. Everybody speaks, and your voice is going to be so much more grounded, more powerful, more compelling if you just open your mouth and do what I even call blathering. Blah, 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 blah. Stretch your mouth out, make some sounds. If you like to sing, sing a little bit. This is going to bring out more resonance in your sound. It's going to bring out more vocal awareness in your sound, and you'll have more fun speaking. This is really the key to delighting in the limelight, is loving to get to use your voice. So that's three. Number four, and this is the last one I'm going to give you, keep a video log. That means open up your phone, put on the video, and chat on video just for your own practice. It's like keeping a diary, speaking your thoughts. What it's going to do is give you practice and turning on a video and speaking your thoughts. If you do this every day and you play with it, like you say, okay, I'm going to put my ideas in a really concise manner, and you learn and practice being concise. Or you'll say, I don't know what I think about this topic. I'm just going to ramble and let it be stream of consciousness. And then you have a place where you are thinking out loud with your words. And that gives you practice in using speaking as a self-discovery of what you think about something. Okay, so those are the four things. Let's see if I can remember them. The last one was the video log. We had vocal warm up. We had rehearsal. And what was the first one? Oh, the journal. Okay, I'm going to give you a bonus one, and that is to use every time you open up your mouth to speak as a moment of experimentation. So you can play with, I'm going to slow down a little bit. I'm going to take up more space. I'm going to notice my breathing. I'm going to see my body for tension. So every time you speak, you can use it as a to practice, and nothing is too small to practice.
I agree. The wonderful list there and the bonus, folks. You can't mess that one up. It is a simple list to go over on daily and see. And I love the experiment, right? That is really that exploration of what we can do, and give yourself room and then give yourself grace and explore the possibilities of you being able to stand on in front or on a stage and just command, right? By your voice, by how you're expressing yourself. And you will definitely feel better and more confident. Now, in development, some people feel like they lose some of themselves, right? So, how can leaders maintain authenticity and connection while still sounding polished and professional on stage or in a meeting?
I like to think about allowing myself imperfection. So, what I mean by that is I allow myself to forget what I'm saying, to lose my place. I like to do that is number one, it gives me practice in doing that because it's going to happen to everybody at some point. So you may as well practice it because it's going to happen at some point. This is what you do. If in a live group, you stop and say, where was I? I just lost my place. And then someone's going to say, or three people are going to say, you were just talking about this thing. And you go, oh, yeah, right. And then you just take it up. What is that? That's audience interaction. What else is it? It's showing that you're human. I can't tell you how many people come up to me after a talk and said, thank you for modeling how to handle losing your place with equanimity. So everyone's going to make mistakes. What we want to do is be able to practice and have fun with them. So we're either serene or we deal with it with amusement. And then we show our humanity. Not only that, I've gotten clients from the mistakes I've made. I remember one time speaking to a group of people, and I had a slide in my slideshow that I stuck in at the very last minute. And wouldn't you know it, when the slide came on, I took a look at it and I turned to the audience and I said, I have no idea why I put this slide here. Now, my speaking coaches would probably have said, don't ever tell your audience that. But I felt like doing that. I felt like being honest. And I said, just wait a minute. It's going to come back. And if it isn't, that's okay. So they waited with me. And I thought, oh, am I going to have to go on? But then suddenly it came to me and I said to them, oh, yes, if you're not prepared, that also can create speaking anxiety. And everybody burst out laughing. And then, of course, I realized the irony of it. And you know what? The leader of that group came up to me afterwards. She said that was her favorite moment, and she hired me as her coach. So there is often money in the mistakes we make.
Yes, if we would just embrace our humanity, right? And not try to be so perfect and so polished. Sometimes honesty gets you more business than you trying to cover up something, right? So
Yes.
something definitely that I love. I love that story, and thank you for sharing it. Now, Linda, I know that you have things going on. You have your book, you have your podcast. So, what do you have coming up, and where can the viewer or listener follow you or support you?
Yes, I have private coaching that I do, people who are busy leaders. I also have a group program called the Delight in the Limelight Accelerator, where we go through this in a group setting where we clear the fear, we practice speaking on our feet, get comfy on camera, and love and transform the sound of our voices so that we can speak with our empowered voices. So if you are interested in any of those, come to my website, lindaugelow.com. And you can also download the speaker preparation checklist. And this is going to give you 7 ways to prepare for your speaking other than the words you're going to say.
Well, thank you for that, folks. We will have all of that as part of the show notes and the video for you to get a hold of Linda. If you want coaching, if you want her book, we'll make sure to put that also as the links. And thank you, Linda, for being with us so far away across the pond. But we've thoroughly enjoyed all that you have shared for speaking with confidence. Folks, today's episode is sponsored by the Global Trends magazine, the Outlier Project, Fantail Services, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, Ascend Meditations, and Chop AI. And if you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know by leaving a comment. Tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.